My name is Reneau Peurifoy, and in this video I describe what assertiveness is, along with two basic assertive skills. Now, whenever two or more people are together, there is conflict, because what one wants is often different from what another person wants. For example, while planning where to go for lunch, one person may want to get a hamburger, while the second one wants pizza, and a third wants tacos. Conflict like this is a normal and healthy part of every human relationship. To resolve conflicts like these, people use one of three basic conflict resolution styles: non-assertive, assertive, and aggressive. A concept originated by Alfred Adler can help us understand the differences between these three styles more fully. This is the idea that behavior is always goal-oriented. Even though we often don't consciously know the goal that is driving our behavior, there is one. Now, the easiest way to identify the goal that underlies the behavior is to look at the results that the behavior produces. Let's do this with each of these three styles of conflict resolution, keeping in mind that they are part of a continuum with a non-assertive style at one end and an aggressive style at the other end. Assertiveness is in the middle between these two. The goal behind non-assertive behavior is to avoid conflict. This is done by ignoring your needs when they interfere with those of another. Furthermore, there are two basic types of non-assertive behavior. The first is situational non-assertiveness, where a person tends to be non-assertive in some types of situations, but not in others. For example, someone might be assertive at work, but non-assertive with his or her partner. The second type is general or global non-assertiveness, where a non-assertive style is someone's normal approach for resolving conflicts. There are two negative things that occur when a non-assertive style is your usual approach for resolving conflicts. First, while it does succeed in avoiding conflict with others, it almost always results in internal conflict and irritation. This occurs because important needs are being ignored. Second, the negative behaviors of others toward you rarely change. Why should they, since their needs are always being met? Some of the types of things that are often seen in a person whose main style for resolving conflict is non-assertive is loss of self-respect, a poor self-image, passive-aggressive behavior. This is getting back in indirect ways. A tendency to sulk or cry to get one's way, or what I call the seesaw effect, where a person is non-assertive for a while, but then becomes aggressive periodically when it is no longer possible to ignore some important need. The goal of aggressive behavior is to win, to dominate, and get your own way. With an aggressive style, you ignore the needs of the other person and focus on meeting your needs. As with non-assertiveness, aggression can be either situational or your usual method for resolving conflicts. While aggressive people do tend to get their way much of the time, they also tend to alienate people. Healthy people usually do not like being around aggressive people who refuse to compromise. Thus, the relationships of aggressive people tend to be unhealthy and lacking in true intimacy. Between these two extremes is assertive behavior. The goal of assertive behavior is to resolve conflicts in a way that is satisfying to both you and others. You compromise so that both your needs and those of the other person are met, at least in part. The four main features of an assertive style are the ability to express needs and feelings freely in a way that is self-satisfying as well as socially effective, a focus on reasonable compromise rather than on winning, the ability to negotiate reasonable changes and solutions, and the ability to plan, to sell and implement agreeable solutions. This video will focus on the first feature of an assertive style, the ability to express needs and feelings freely in a way that is self-satisfying as well as socially effective. While some people might not respond well to an assertive style, most healthy adults in a free democratic society usually do respond positively, making it the most effective and satisfying way to resolve most of the conflicts you have with others. This leads some to believe that an assertive approach is the only approach one should use to resolve conflict. However, there are times when a non-assertive or aggressive style is more appropriate. For example, a non-assertive style is often not only appropriate, but essential in situations where life or property are at risk, such as during a robbery, or when you are dealing with authority, such as a police officer who is directing you to do something in an emergency situation. People living under a totalitarian government also might need to be non-assertive in order to survive. A less extreme and more common situation is where a relationship is important and the needs you are ignoring are minor. For example, when visiting an elderly parent, it might be appropriate to put one's needs aside for a short time in order to care for the parent, knowing that your needs will be met later after the visit. Likewise, an aggressive approach is often appropriate in competitive situations, when dealing with immature personalities who refuse to cooperate, or in situations where life or property is at risk. One of the roadblocks that prevents people from using an assertive style is a belief system that does not support assertiveness. Women who come from countries where they have few or no rights, as well as women who have been in abusive relationships, can be taught assertive skills, but they will not use them until they buy into the idea that they have rights. Keep in mind that human rights is a Western idea that flows out of the Christian belief that people have equal worth. There are still many places in the world where large parts of the population do not have rights or are considered as having little or no value. The three most basic rights that are commonly presented are: I have the right to request, the right to refuse, and the right to right a wrong. I like to add, I have the right to be treated with dignity and respect. While these rights are essential for a non-assertive person to internalize in order for them to be more assertive, aggressive people need to buy into the idea that they have responsibilities that mirror these rights. Specifically, I have the responsibility to allow others to make requests, to allow them to refuse even though I might not like it, to allow them to seek to right a wrong without retribution, and to treat others with dignity and respect. If you tend to be non-assertive, copy these rights onto a card and read them once a day until you find them reflected in your daily behavior by the use of assertive skills. If you tend to be aggressive, copy the responsibilities onto a card and read them once a day until you find that you are treating others with dignity and respect in your daily behavior. If you are interested in exploring the idea of rights more fully, a more extensive list of rights and responsibilities can be found in the resources listed at the end of the video. The first assertive skill to master is the use of what are called I messages. An I message is a statement that tells the listener what you see, think, feel, or want in an objective manner that does not assign blame or put the listener down. In contrast, a you message is a statement that focuses on the other person and assigns blame or puts the listener down. Here are a few examples of you messages. You never sit with me. How can you watch such stupid stuff? Don't be so irresponsible this time, and be there by 2. Notice how the you messages tend to cause the hearer to become defensive and not want to cooperate. Now, let's look at how an I message could be used in each of these situations. It's been a few days since we've taken time to sit together and talk. I have no interest in that show. I need to be picked up no later than 2, if we're going to be on time. Notice how the I messages, in contrast to the you messages, are easier to accept and invites discussion. If you tend to use you messages, take a week or so to spend a little time at the end of each day to review the way you've talked to others. Whenever you recall a you message that you have used, think of how you could have used an I message instead. Taking time to identify the you messages you are using, and then thinking of an I message that could be used instead, is an effective way to make I messages more a part of your communication style. Now let's see how I messages can be put together into what is called a DER script. The letters DER stand for describe, express, and request. The purpose of a DER script is to state what you are concerned about or what you want in a way that is objective, will cause the least amount of resistance in the other person, and encourage cooperation. A DER script begins with a description of the problem you wish to resolve. Do this as clearly and objectively as possible with an I message. Try to think of yourself as a scientist who is trying to describe what you see objectively using words that have no emotional connotation. The more objectively you describe the problem, the less likely you are to trigger defensiveness in the other person. This is often difficult for people who come from families that used criticism and put-downs frequently. If this is true for you, pay special attention to avoid negative labels that ridicule or shame the other person, such as dumb, stupid, inconsiderate, or selfish. Your description should also be short. Most problems can be described in one sentence. The most you should use is 3 sentences. Long descriptions of a problem invite the other person to stop listening to you or to begin arguing with your description either verbally or in their mind. It's also important to avoid words that overgeneralize, such as never, always, and every. Be specific as to time and place. If you say, "You're always late," the other person usually stops listening and starts to recall times when he or she was on time. However, a statement like, "You were late twice this week," is a simple statement of fact. Let me say this again for emphasis. The more specific you are, even when you're dealing with a recurring behavior, the more successful you will be. Finally, focus on only one well-defined behavior or problem. If you have several issues to resolve, address them at different times or wait until one is resolved before moving to the next one. Discussing several different issues at once tends to muddy the water and makes it more difficult to resolve any of them. The second part of the script is a description of what you think or feel. This part is important when you are dealing with long-term problems or issues that are especially important to you. However, for minor conflicts, you can skip it. For example, if you are returning a shirt that was not sewn properly to a store, you just need the description and request. "This shirt was not sewn properly. I'd like to exchange it for another." For more complex problems or conflicts, it's usually best to focus on your thoughts when you do not have a close relationship with the other person. For example, "I think that it will be too expensive," or "I'm concerned that I might be late." For conflicts with someone you are close to, expressing your feelings is sometimes more effective. If you choose to do this, understatement is often best, as you need to focus on what you want rather than triggering strong emotions in the other person that make it difficult to reach an agreement. Simple statements, such as, "I was hurt," or "I was afraid," are best. Also, avoid trying to guess at the other person's goals, attitudes, or intentions with statements like "you wanted" or "you thought." Keep in mind that when you guess at what others are thinking or feeling, you're often wrong. The last part of the script is stating what you want. This is often the most difficult part of a DER script. People tend to find it easy to identify what they don't want or what is wrong, and often focus on this. However, it's frequently difficult for them to identify what they do want. In fact, it's often never stated in a clear and concise way. Because of this, it's often best to decide what you want before you compose your script. As you develop your request, keep in mind that you cannot change the other person's personality or beliefs. Statements like, "I want you to be more responsible," or "I want you to be more considerate," are meaningless. Instead, describe a specific action you want performed or stopped. Do this as directly, clearly, and explicitly as you can. The clearer and more specific you are, the more likely you are to succeed. Again, do this in one simple sentence. Now, let's look at two examples. The first one is David speaking to his wife while he was working on household finances. "Don't you have anything better to do than bother me? You seem to think you're the only one who lives here. That talk show host is so stupid he drives me crazy. How do you expect me to work with him droning on in the background? You shouldn't listen to that anyway." Notice how each of these statements is a you message that belittles his wife. He is also not very specific about what he wants. Now, let's look at a script David developed that addresses the same issue with I messages. "The radio is making it hard for me to think. I don't like that talk show host and find him distracting. Would you listen to that in the other room or use your portable radio and earbuds?" Notice how David is focusing on his reaction to the show without putting his wife down. He's also making a clear statement about what he wants. Now let's look at Carmen addressing her husband. "You never sit with me. It really hurts when you don't care and are so distant. Why can't you be nice to me and show me that you still care?" Notice how she overgeneralizes by saying, "You never sit with me." Her husband can easily think of times when they have sat together. Carmen is also guessing at her husband's motives when she says, "You don't care." In addition, her request is very vague. What does "be nice" and "show me you care" mean? These can mean many different things to different people. Now let's look at the script she developed that uses I messages. "It's been so busy the last few days that we haven't taken time to sit together and talk. I'm feeling a little lonely. Can we sit together for a while and talk?" Notice how Carmen is now being specific and objectively stating fact when she says that they've been busy for a few days. She's also no longer accusing him when she says, "We haven't taken time to sit together and talk." She is also stating her feelings without telling her husband what his motives are. Her request to sit together and talk is also very clear. As you gain skill in creating DER scripts, you will find them to be an effective way to present what you want to others who are close to you in a way that encourages cooperation and fosters intimacy. At work, they provide you with a way to make requests and bring up issues that is professional and will make you more effective. The last two elements of an assertive style mentioned at the beginning of the video were the ability to negotiate reasonable change and solutions, and the ability to plan, sell, and implement agreeable solutions. Because these are both two very broad topics, I will only mention them briefly. After presenting your concern or request with a DER script, others will usually respond by telling you what they think or want. It is important to stop talking and listen to them. People are usually not willing to negotiate until you've heard their concerns and what they want. It's also a good idea to repeat back their main concerns to them in summary form. This is called paraphrasing, and lets them know that they have been heard accurately. They are now ready for you to begin negotiating with them. More on this is found in the resource at the end of the video. While most of the people you deal with will respond positively to a DER script, there are some who will be non-negotiators. They will refuse to compromise no matter what you do. When this is the case, you are left with only two alternatives. You can be non-assertive and let them have their way, or you can become aggressive and state consequences that you are both willing and able to carry out if they do not cooperate. One word of caution, though. If you state consequences that you are unwilling to carry out or which you are unable to carry out, your non-negotiator will soon realize this and be even more unwilling to cooperate. Because assertiveness is a very broad topic, I've only been able to cover two important assertive skills in this video. A more in-depth discussion with additional skills and examples can be found in the book Anger, Taming the Beast that was used as the basis for this video. Clicking on the image of the book takes you to more information about it. Clicking on the subscribe button takes you to the home page of my channel, where you will find additional videos and resources. Thank you for viewing my presentation. I hope it has increased your understanding of assertiveness and provided you with a useful way to state what you need or want more effectively. If it has, please click on the like button before leaving.